All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Boldly Becoming podcast. I am very excited to introduce you to Margaret Edie. She's a local business owner. She owns a funeral home. I actually met her through networking, honestly. We'll go into a little bit more of that in a minute, but she is a caring soul, somebody that, and she's going to giggle and kind of be like, nah, but she truly does care about so many people all the time. I was going to say, Margaret, what would you, again, you don't have to do anything fancy of an intro or like you're at a networking meeting, but what would you like to tell people? How would you introduce yourself?
Well, I grew up, I'm what they call a prison brat. My parents both worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, so I have a very fun background with that. We moved around quite a bit, every about a year and a half, till we relocated to Virginia, and we stayed here and graduated from high school, all that jazz. Did not want to go off to a 4-year college. I told my parents, don't waste your money. I don't know what I want to do, and I started working at the local hospital. Was a nursing assistant with hospice, and from there it just went... I was like, this is just my job. Yeah. Nothing. I loved what I did. I loved being with the patients, the families, but it wasn't. I didn't see it as my future. My dad was like, yeah, you can't. You need to do more. You need more education. And so somebody was like, well, why don't you become a funeral director? And I was like, I could do that. And so I went home. I'd been in and out of my parents' house a good amount, and went home and I was like, hey, Mom, I'm going to become a funeral director. And she goes, oh, is that the flavor of the week? And I said, yeah, that's the flavor of the week. I'm going to do this. And here I am now. And we actually just had that conversation with my mom this morning about my beginning of how I got to where I am. But I went to Birmingham, Alabama to go to mortuary school, came back to help my parents with my nephew who's got CP. They got guardianship of him when he was 9. Yeah. So that's a whole other podcast right there. But and came back to Virginia, went up to Arlington, worked up there at Murphy Funeral Home, an Irish Catholic funeral home, closest one to Arlington National Cemetery. So I got a lot of experience with military services, high profile services. We had a contract with the Army during the time of war. So I prepared soldiers to be able to be sent home. We picked them up from Walter Reed and so forth. So it was a lot of experience. I've met some amazing people, embalmed some really cool people too. So that's a little side note on that. Right. But then I met my husband, and we just decided that we wanted to grow our family, and Arlington, Virginia was way too expensive. And we came down here to North Chesterfield, Virginia, and I started managing Morrissette Funeral Home, and now I'm on year 5 of owning. So that's my little bit of a journey.
I was going to say, and I always forget that your family were military. So it's funny, everything kind of just kept going full circle. Yeah. It was, hey, there's some caregiving in there, there's the military, and then you do funeral stuff for military, and then it brings you back home and just kind of all the way around.
Yeah, my husband was part of the old guard at Fort Myers. So
that's right.
He was medic with that, but we didn't actually meet through a funeral, which was kind of weird. We did funerals, but didn't meet that way. So
gotcha.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because what is the old guard exactly?
That's your honor guard for Arlington National Cemetery, your carriers, your caisson. But he was a medic, so he oversaw what those soldiers did. So high profile funerals, he was there just to make sure if somebody fell out, he'd get him a cold rag.
Gotcha. So he was just assessing everything at all times.
Yeah. But we got some really cool perks out of it, like big events, like when we went to the presidential ball, and that was just amazing to see the president, the first lady doing their first dance. I'm like, I would never have ever had this experience. So we got a lot of baseball games. But
and I think it's interesting because we were talking probably sometime last year about how you go to your conferences for the funeral services and things like that, and I know there's probably something more prestigious called, but just so much that you'll have to consider in death, and it's not like what to do in a war time. And when you're planning for that to be kind of the culture that's going on, there's different things that you'll have to prepare for, know how to do. It's like when I think about doctors, they have this oath that no matter where they are, if somebody's in need or somebody goes down, who's the doctor around? They're raising their hand.
Correct.
And there's things like that for you. I mean, you were just telling me the other day that if somebody's traveling out of the country and just all of the differences and all the just special things that you have to know or do, or even what travel insurance essentially for it.
Yeah, there is travel insurance that you can have over your lifetime that will get you, if you are 100 miles or more away from your home, it'll get you back home at no additional cost. And people don't realize that if you die overseas on vacation, your family could be looking at $10,000 to $15,000 just to get you back home. A flight can cost $5,000 because you're considered cargo, and that's a different situation versus a passenger. So, and then there's the legal documentation, the requirements for what your body's encased in. People just don't understand all of that. And there's a lot of education that we do. Nationally, locally, that we have to just keep up with the laws and so forth. So it's a lot, but it's neat.
Right. Well, and I know you were saying the other day too, you're like, my husband's in TSA. So we have like just a combo of crazy stories.
Oh yeah. He told me last night there's somebody that came in with 2 guns and they thought they could hide it with X-ray tinfoil.
Oh.
It was like, yeah, come on, Dodo.
Well, at least he had an interesting day.
Oh, yeah, he did. He was like, yeah, somebody tagged me out. It was like the 9th bag after that. I didn't have to do all the paperwork and have to deal with the police. And I'm like, oh, my God. Yeah, but people every day, he says people come through with guns.
I
people
believe
are
it.
Idiots.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, and you're like, can we just all just travel safely?
Exactly.
That's all.
Oh, no, and most of them don't even realize. They use their range bag for their carry-on.
Sure.
Just left a magazine in there. So...
Well, and I know, so kind of back to what you were saying before, I know when it was one of our one-on-ones, I think it was before your session that you came in for, and I was asking you, like, how does one refer you? Because it's not just, hey, I know a dead person, let me send them your way, or it's not happening that way. It's more of, I'm like, so what do you need in that sense?
Yeah.
And I loved your response then, and you can elaborate on it. It was very much like, I just want to teach people about what to protect themselves from, what to prepare for. And we both have the same heart of death doesn't have to be scary or just something we don't talk about.
Right. It doesn't have to be that taboo subject. Like unfortunately, it's the one thing that is going to happen to all of us. There's no way to avoid it. People don't pay taxes sometimes. So like it is the only thing we have in common. And it's just, there are so many situations where I'm sitting down with a family that has had a tragic death and they are sitting there going, well, do we bury mom or do we have a cremation? And it's like, this is a conversation that should have happened a long time ago. Like it's okay to discuss, if you want to be buried or if you want to be cremated, what do you want your cremated remains to go? Where do you want them to be buried? Do you want them to be scattered? Do you want to be turned into a diamond? I can send you to the coral reef. Like those are so many things that you can do, but people don't know if they're not educated. Yeah. So that's why it's like, it's okay to talk about. And so that's why when I say, how do you sell me, it's just have the conversation,
right?
And talk to people about, hey, if I die, this is what I want. I don't want this. I want this. Right. It's okay to talk about those things. So that's a big way to sell me.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's cool because it's a team. It's not just you or just one person handling that whole load. There's different areas of all that you do that really makes up everybody, and they kind of all do it in their own lane, like what they probably do best for you, right? Because you've got people that are actually putting the makeup on, the individuals that are being buried in the traditional sense or what we would think is the traditional sense. You've got folks that are, like your funeral home. I think what's beautiful is because we love sharing stories in here, and me as a person, I love that you take that into that part of their next steps for them. Yeah. And because we know it's a lot for the family.
It is.
But then there's some wishes that people that have passed, they want to. So I'm going to say, do you want to talk a little bit about how y'all do?
Yeah, with what makes Morrissette special, I guess. Yeah, because we do things differently. We are considered a life celebration funeral home. So we really do take the time, like when somebody's sitting down with me to make arrangements, I'm not going to go into, I'm going to do my legal bit at the very beginning because that's what the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, they mandates everything I do, and OSHA and all those other things. But I get into what is your loved one's passion? Like let's say your time for your dad. Yeah. I would want to sit there and learn about your dad before I get into the death certificate. What are we going to do for him? Let's look at caskets. And I want to know your dad. Yeah. How can I celebrate your dad? I want to know about his passions, his hobbies, and what what really made his life, what were his loves, because I'm going to display that in my chapel. I have 10 projectors in my chapel, and I have a wonderful team. We create vignettes throughout the building. We project images up on the walls. We bake cookies, so you have that comforting smell when you're walking into the building, where it's like you're walking into a house instead of a funeral home. Because honestly, who likes walking into a funeral home?
Right.
Like,
it makes people very nervous. Like
exactly.
when they go to the hospital and they get the white coat syndrome or whatever it's called.
Exactly.
Yeah, same thing.
And that's one thing I love hearing when I hear people leaving the funeral home. They're like, oh man, this was great. Like I didn't feel like I was in a funeral home. And it's like, that's what we want. Like our reception space, because we can cater to whatever people want. We have, provide all the utensils and stuff, but I also have a margarita machine. So if mama loved her limeade margaritas, we're going to have that machine going, and we're going to be providing you all those drinks, those special things that touch their life. You don't have to just do the traditional thing. And that's the other thing. It's like, let's celebrate the life how they would want to be celebrated. And that's also the importance about telling people how you want to be celebrated. And so I tell people, come in, write it down. Tell me what you want. And people don't even know that you can pay for it today, and it kind of locks it in at today's price. And you can also move that policy. And like, people don't realize that. And there's also a lot of laws that go along with the type of disposition you want. So cremation, if you got 5 children and they're the ones that are all going to have to tell the funeral director, yes, we want to have mom cremated. But let's say 3 of those kids want you cremated and 2 of them want you buried. That's an argument that has to be decided by a judge. So why not have your wishes written down, designate the people that need to follow through with your wishes, so you don't have that family turmoil in the worst time of their lives.
And it can get ugly.
Oh, yeah.
And that's also another piece that I feel like we have similarities on, is you're not therapizing, but you are being you are the middleman for
navigating
a lot of situations. Because you don't even know the relationship that everybody has to the deceased.
Exactly.
And so it's been very interesting to see you talk and navigate some of those things just in your space.
It really is. And that goes into my education. Part of becoming a funeral director is navigating their psychology that we have to go through. Our continuing education that is required is involving how to handle people and the different generations that also are happening at us. Like as older funeral directors we've got these younger people that are now coming in to make arrangements for their parents, and how do we handle this generation, especially during COVID, and how we have young people coming in to make funeral arrangements because their parents died suddenly. So it's just it's navigating that, is besides managing people, navigating family members' emotions and the unknown of what you're walking into.
So, and that kind of triggers me to ask, what was it? So I know you kind of fell into the funeral services, mortuary, but what was it that kept you in it? Like, what was it that's made it so interesting for you to stay?
Being that strength for the family in their worst time, helping them, because I'm very type A. Like, if I didn't do this, I'd probably help like plan weddings, but brides, no thank you. Give me the dead. But that's my type of personality. And when I walk away from a cemetery, or pull away from a cemetery, or say goodbye to a family, and they're hugging me and thanking me for guiding them through this process, that is what makes me love what I do, because I help them through the hardest time.
And so with that element too, I mean, I'm sure you're working all the time. You're the owner. But you also have to go home to a family, and you're even caregiving in some of those senses too. I mean, for your daughter, and then for your nephew or your cousin.
Nephew.
And is it hard to turn it all off, or do you feel like you've found a balance, or what does that look like as a natural caregiver, in my opinion?
I have found a balance. I have figured out how to find time for me, but it did take a while. In this profession, it is very hard to navigate because, you want to provide that service, provide it, but there's also a time like, hey, I need to sleep, I need to eat, I need to focus on my family. I can't always be going to my phone. I need to be able to have a cutoff period. But when I first started in the funeral profession, you weren't so connected. Like, we had a fax machine. Like, we would call into the Washington Post. We would really read or speak the obituary to them, and they would type it out, and then they would fax as a proof. So it was like, when you did go home, you only got at night was death calls. If somebody died at home, we would have to go and pick them up and bring them. But we also embalmed at night. And I don't make my staff do that.
Okay.
Like, that is big burnout. That's something that in this profession needs to change. And families, they don't really understand, like, we are providing a lot of services in a very short amount of time. Like, people want things in 3 to 4 days. That's a lot. That's a lot of turnaround that we have to do. They don't understand that behind the scenes. So I do make my staff pause, focus. And because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of these families.
Yeah.
So that's where I try to make sure we all have a balance. But there's some of my staff that I'm like, why are you calling me? It's your day off. Like, put your phone down. I will take care of this. I've done a funeral once or twice in my day.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's fine. You have to find that balance. If not, there is a high in our profession, a high alcoholism, high suicide rate, and depression. And you have to make sure you take care of yourself.
Well, and I think that even says a lot about you, and it goes even further into you caring for your staff, that you're setting those expectations and making sure that they are taking the time for themselves, because you can't take care of the dead if you're not, if you're with them,
Yeah. I mean, there have been days where, I have worked 30 days in a row and I am in there. But my mentor, when I was an intern, and we were like, oh man, it's slow. And he goes, appreciate the downtime, because there's going to be days you're not going to have that and you're going to be working your tail off. So appreciate the downtime.
Yeah.
Take a moment, enjoy the afternoon, dust around the funeral home, do something. But yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
A little bit on myself.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of really brought me during that time period, is what brought me here to have my pictures taken, because I wanted to focus on me, like, and finding the inner beauty that I had kind of lost, because it was just family, caretaking. We had a flood at the funeral home. I had construction at my house, and it was just like, I need something for me. And that was really kind of a nice reset for me, and it's been fun.
Well, and it was so cool to see you in here, because I saw you in a work capacity prior to that, and seeing you just like let it loose, and how like you have such a fun spirit, Margaret, and all of the social things that you get into, it's for the good of things, but it's also just like just to have a good time.
Exactly.
You're like, I want to look cute. I want to drink wine. I want to have fun.
Exactly. Because you only live once. And I mean, really, I understand that. I see so many lives that are lost so quickly, and they didn't get to appreciate life. So I want to take those times. I want to have those experiences. My husband's like, are you ever going to sit down and calm down? I'm like, no. Why? I'll do that when I'm dead. Like,
I got plenty of time.
Exactly. I want to really see the world and experience all of it.
Well, I'm glad that you see that now, and I'm sure what you do makes that even more prevalent. And I guess that was one of the other things I was going to ask too, is that's what I was trying to think of was, I know that you said you're the first female owner of Morrissette.
Yep.
And do you think that the kind of caregiving, the nurturing side of being a woman has gone into some of these other things that you're noticing that need to change in the field and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we have a huge kind of complete change of the profession. We used to be like maybe 20% women in the profession, and now we are probably 60% women. Wow. Because it's not so much a business. Everything was all about, okay, how much money we're going to make. It's this. I don't care about that. I want my family to survive, but I want the people that my clients to be comforted, and people want to approach a woman because it's easier to hug a woman. And we're caregivers, and it's just now taking it to another level, and people are easier to approach a woman. When it comes to the worst day of their life.
Literally. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for such a beautiful conversation. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm glad that people get to see you and get to hear your side of things, and maybe it'll have them asking questions. Yeah. And and we'll put her information in the show notes so that you can actually reach out to me or reach out to her about actual questions. But even if this just opens up a conversation for people to talk about death or to help their loved ones, or maybe even find a seminar or workshop.
Right. There's so many things out there. So there's resources. We do things all the time. I've got a cool thing happening in September. I've got a retired tomb guard that's coming to do a Q&A with a documentary that's going to be playing about, so it's just neat things, but that's where get people in a funeral home and just like, it's okay. Yeah. It's not, just because you came in here doesn't mean you're going to die. That's the other thing. Well,
you don't have to fear the steps of that. Exactly. Wouldn't you want to know that it's all taken care of when you're gone?
Right. Yeah. It's the final gift to give your family. Yeah. How many people are like, oh, I'm so glad Mom wrote this stuff down. I wouldn't know what flowers to get her, or what casket interior, or what nail polish to put on her. So those are all questions I ask. So
No, I love that. Yeah. Well, and I'm just asking you one final question that I ask everybody. We have, when you come in, you sit down in the hair and makeup chair, people usually, women tend to share their wisdom. I was going to say, is there any words of wisdom that you come to your mind that you want to share with the listeners today?
I'm going to just go back to that, what I brought up before. It's just, you only live once. Appreciate the life you have.
Yeah.
Really live it to the fullest, because why not,
Heck yeah, brother.
Yeah. That's what I got.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for the beautiful conversation. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for tuning in to the Boldly Becoming podcast. I hope to see you next time.